I often wondered about a certain situation in the story of creation. Um, and I would often, I'm sure you often wonder the same thing. How did the serpent get into the garden in the first place? I know God planted the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden, and he told uh, Adam and Eve to not eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. He said they could eat of any tree except for that one particular tree. But all of a sudden, Eve is admiring the tree, and the serpent shows up, and she gets tempted to eat the fruit, tricked. The serpent lies to her and tells her that they won't die, she won't die, but their eyes will be open and they will become like God, knowing the difference between good and evil. I tell you what, if you look at it in that aspect, um, they did become like God, kind of, sort of. Um, anyway, but here's what I think. If you look at the previous situations and the previous acts of God in the book of Genesis, the first book, and he, you know, created, he said, let there be light. He created the heavens and the earth and everything else. And he announced, pronounced everything good. Everything was good. And, but here's where it gets interesting. And I'm going to read this particular Bible verse real quick. And it's the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 18. And the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. And depending on what Bible, what version of the Bible you have, it might say helpmate or maybe even a wife or something of that nature. But there's the key right there. Adam is already in the garden, paradise, perfection, right? But that's the one instance where God is quoted to have said, it is not good. So if you think about a situation that's not good, that's imperfection. So apparently there was an imperfection in the garden, and that was Adam's. I don't know if Adam was lonely or if he was just milling around kicking rocks or whatever. I don't know. But if God said it is not good, whatever the case may be, in this instance, that man should be alone, then there's your imperfection. And that particular imperfection is was the portal, the doorway for the serpent to gain entrance, I believe, into the Garden of Eden. So, and here's something else a little bit that's kind of interesting. You noticed, if you notice, when God created Adam, he formed the man from the dust of the earth and he breathed the breath of life into him. And he became a living being, a living soul. Okay. Obviously, there's a literal meaning to that. After all, we all breathe the breath of life, right? We all breathe, we take in air, we exhale carbon. But there is a spiritual side to that. And what that means, breathing his breath of life into Adam, he instilled within Adam's vessel, a measure of his spirituality, his consciousness. So he instilled a portion of his life into Adam, and that's how Adam became a living soul. Nevertheless, if you think about how Eve was created, she was pulled from his rib. He took a rib, one of Adam's ribs, and he formed the woman, and that was his helpmeet. There is no mention of Eve ever receiving the breath of life, um, meaning the spiritual side of it. Eve did not receive that measure of spirituality. So that made her vulnerable if you really think about it. First of all, there was the imperfection of Adam's aloneness, which allowed the serpent entrance into the garden. Nevertheless, the serpent could not approach Adam because Adam had that measure of God's spirituality that possibly could have resisted. And I know that sounds kind of contradictory because he didn't resist Eve. And I think that there's a valid reason for that too, because Eve being a portion of his very own essence, his essence, not God, that portion that was meant to fill whatever void of imperfection, Adam was inclined to trust that as well. And if he was assigned a helpmeet, then that also is a telltale, because why would he need a helpmeet other than God? Sounds strange, don't it? I mean, you have God. Why do you need something or somebody else to help you? And you're assigned a helpmate by God, taken from your own essence. So guess what? You're going to trust that helpmate. And hey, you know the rest of the story. They ended up eating the forbidden fruit. They ended up being expelled from the Garden of Eden. And to make sure they don't get back in, angels or cherubim was were assigned to guard it. They in the Bible it says they had flaming swords. And now the question is, why the imperfection in the first place? And I think that the answer to that is a spiritual nature. Because if you look at it from a literal sense, then you'll have to conclude that the creator himself is imperfect and that he did not have enough foresight to foresee that they'd yield to the temptation of the serpent. So I believe there's a spiritual answer to that. Nevertheless, I I'll probably talk about that in another video. But it's something to think about. You know, I comb the book and I catch certain verses that pique my interest, and I ask questions like, you know, why did this happen? What was that about, or what was that for? And I wonder and I ponder, and I just wait for answers. What I'm trying to do is reconcile my very own belief systems once and for all, because I was force fed my belief system. I didn't get a chance to make up my own mind about what I wanted to believe when I was, you know, when I was a kid. Like many of us, I was force fed doctrine, whether it be religious or worldly. I was force fed it and said, hey, this is what it is. This is the way you believe. And that's just the way it is. And I didn't dispute it. I just accepted it. And here I am today realizing I've accepted a lot of false doctrine that I need to reconcile in my head. But it's going pretty good. And the false doctrine is going away. I mean, my acceptance of it is going away. And I'm feeling much better about myself and my position in this world. Therefore, I'd like to say thank you for listening. Um, I am Dario Thomas. I am the writer of the Spiritology books. The Power Spiritology is a book that I wrote that's on sale at Amazon.com. Get you a copy. You won't be sorry. Um, it will show you how to reconcile your very own belief systems, clear your mind. Also, the Spiritology Television Network. Please subscribe, and I'll be doing more of these videos to, you know, challenge some belief systems and to get you to think about what you really believe. Think about it, whether it makes sense or not. If it makes sense, that's fine. But if it doesn't make sense, but you still hold on to it out of fear, then you need to question, why do you need to cling to something that does not make sense? So, anyway, subscribe to the Spiritology Television Network. Buy the book, The Power of Spiritology. It's a series, actually. It's about a series of about 6 books so far. There are more to come. And all of them are pretty much self sufficient. For instance, you can buy The Power of Spiritology 1, 2, or 3, all the way up to 6. You can buy any one of those titles that piques your interest, and that book will be sufficient unto itself to help you develop spiritually, to clear your head, mind, mentally, stabilize emotions. And it's not like you have to buy the first book that needs to lead you into the second book. It's not like that at all. I'm here to make money, but I'm not here to drain your pocketbook, if that makes sense. I'm here to make my living like everybody else, but I'm not here to squeeze all the juice out of your wallet. Anyway, thank you for listening, and God bless.